Hello everyone, my name is Masha and today I want to teach you how to make this beautiful bracelet. Now this bracelet may look complicated, but there's only 2 repeating rows. Yep, there's only 2. And today I'm going to teach you how to do them. Now going into this tutorial, I assume that you already know how to make the basic knots. If you don't, I have a separate tutorial for that, and if you are a complete beginner, I also have a beginner's guide which will help you get on your feet. This definitely shouldn't be the first bracelet that you try. I recommend you start with a chevron, for which I also have a separate tutorial. But this very much is a beginner bracelet since there are only 2 rows. So with all that being said, let's get into it. So for this bracelet, you're gonna need 4 gradient colors and 1 background color. We're gonna need 2 strings per gradient color and 8 strings for the background color. So you might need more than 1 of that. And each string is 1 meter long. So I'm doing a triangle start to this bracelet, for which I have a separate tutorial to save time in this video. All you need to know to make a triangle end is the order of the strings. And this is the order. So on the left, we go with the gradient strings in the order that you want them to appear in the bracelet, and then the 4 background strings. And on the right, we go with the 4 background strings and then the gradient strings in the order that you want them to appear in the bracelet. Now let's get into actually making this bracelet. So isolating the 2 strings from the middle here, we've got a color string from the left and a background string from the right. We're going to start by doing a forward-backward knot with the color string onto the background string, and then the color string is going to go in 4 backward knots to the left onto these strings in order. So 1 forward backward knot here and then 4 backward knots to the left. So now that that first step is done, we're going to take the remaining strings from the bundle on the left. We should have 3 of them, and we're going to do forward knots with each of these strings one by one onto the color string. Alright, now we've done the left side, we're going to focus on the right side. Take that string we did the forward backward knot on from the center, and we're going to do 3 forward knots with that string to the right. Now the remaining strings on the right are going to do a backward knot each onto this string. So 4 backward knots with the remaining strings onto this string. And that's it, that's the first row. We just have to repeat this 3 more times and then switch to the second row, which would technically be the 5th row or something, but the second repeating part. Let's phrase it like that. So repeat what we just did 3 more times. And this time the second gradient string and the second background string are in the center, but all the steps are going to be the same. I'm going to do that and then explain the second part. Alright, so as you can see, I just repeated those steps that I showed you, and yes, the colors have changed, but that doesn't matter. The steps are only what I showed you, despite the changing colors. It's the same steps in that order. 4 rows of that, the first one that I showed you plus 3 more. Now we're going to do the same thing but mirrored, so let's discuss it again. We are once again starting with the 2 strings in the center, but this time as it's mirrored, the strings are also mirrored. The color string is now on the right. We're going to start by doing a backward forward knot with the color string onto the background string, and then 4 forward knots onto the strings to the right. Same thing as we did on the other side, but mirrored. Let's do it. We then take the remaining 3 strings in the bundle on the right and do backward knots with each of them onto this color string. The string we did the backward forward knots onto this white string here is going to do 3 backward knots to the left. And then the last part of this repeating step is the remaining strings here are going to do a forward knot each onto the white string. So now you have to repeat this step 3 more times and then switch back to step 1 and do that 4 times, switch back to step 2, do that 4 times, and so on and so forth until the bracelet reaches the length that you want. If you want to finish this bracelet in a triangle end at the bottom, you have to slightly alter the way that you do your rows, so I'm going to make a little bit more of my bracelet and then walk you through that process as well. Alright, so I have made enough of my bracelet and now I want to finish it, but I want to finish it in a triangle end, similar to how we started, but obviously inverted the other direction for the end. So how do I get this shape to be this shape? So I'm now at the spot where the tutorial started, the first step. That would be what I would be repeating here. This is where I recommend you start making the triangle end, either here or at the first step of the second tutorial, basically with the first color of your gradient. That is where I would recommend you start doing your triangle end. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing the bracelet just like we were doing before, but with each row that we do, we're going to do one less knot. So this first row goes exactly how the first row goes. Exactly how I explained in the first step. So I'm just going to do that quickly. Alright, so I did that first row as normal. Forward backward knot followed by 4 backward knots, 3 forward knots onto that string, 3 forward knots followed by 4 backward knots onto that string. The next row we're going to remove 1 knot either side, the last knot. So instead of doing a forward backward knot, 4 backward knots, and then 3 forward knots onto that string, this row we're only making 2. And then on the other side, instead of doing 3 forward knots and then 4 backward knots onto that string, we're going to do 3 backward knots onto that string. So same exact thing, except we're removing the last knot either side. Let's do that. See how we didn't do the last knot in both of those rows? There's only 2 knots here and only 3 knots here. Next row we do is the same thing, except we remove another knot. So instead of 2 knots, we do 1 knot onto the string. Instead of 3 knots, we do 2 knots onto the string on this side. And we do so on and so forth. When it comes time to switch to the second step, we do that as well, but every time we remove 1 knot from the edge until we are only left with 1 knot that is going to be the center and the tip of the triangle. And after that, we can do the triangle ends, which are also explained in more detail in that tutorial to save time here. So I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to do twisted ties for this bracelet because that's just what I prefer. And let's look at the results. And here we go, this is what the bracelet ends up looking like. And as I said, I did a triangle end and a twisted tie either side. I have a separate tutorial for twisted ties if you want to watch that. But I absolutely love this bracelet, I think it is super cute, and I'm actually considering making it again in a different color combination just because I think it is adorable. Genuinely considering making a collection for this. What color combination should I do it in if I do make a collection? What do you think about that? Well, anyway, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. I will try to answer as many as I can. And with that being said, I want to give a special shout out to my patrons and especially my top supporters. Thank you so much for your support. If you also want to become a patron and support the work that I do here on this channel, there is a link in the description for you to do that. But in any case, thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed today's video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!